Hello my friends. On today's video, The Faces of Africa, we will explore every part of the continent and examine the various head sculptures that were created by the peoples of Africa. So, we invite you to join us in our adventure to find out what we can learn about these incredible cultures. Let us begin in North Africa. The sandstone sculpture we see before us comes from Nubia. It dates from the early 4th century AD, during the end of the Kush kingdom. Scholars believe that this object is a reserve head. These sculpted heads served as replacements for a mummified body, because sometimes a mummy would decay, so the sandstone head would become a home for the soul. Heads like these were also used by the people of ancient Kemet. This particular sculpture has an abstract style, which may be reflective of styles of art from the oldest Nile cultures of the 4th millennium BC. The parallel lines across the brow might be a headband, but it seems more likely to be a representation of scarification. The Nuer people, who live primarily in South Sudan, have such scarification marks on their heads. Not only is this a mark of ethnic identity, but also a way to celebrate their courage and strength, and to show one's adult status. Next, we journey to East Africa. Within Uganda, we find a terracotta head that dates back to around 900 AD. It is known as the Luzira head and attributed to the Kingdom of Uganda. This royal head was uncovered in 1929 by prison inmates. The area of excavation was once a lakeshore shrine. The religious site was long ago used by priests who served the King of Uganda. The artwork's intricate hairstyle may denote a high status because it was a type of coiffure linked with religious and political leadership in other areas. The Luzira head is considered to be a celebration of power and leadership, as well as a fantastic example of craftsmanship. One cannot help but reflect on the intriguing coincidence that this symbol of political power was discovered by prisoners who have had their power stripped away from them. Now we venture to West Africa. We step into the holy land of Ile-Ife, Nigeria. To the Yoruba, Ile-Ife is their spiritual heartland. In Yoruba myth, this is where the creation of the earth began, and it is also where the art we see before us was created. The Ife heads are among the most naturalistic artworks of the ancient world. This brass sculpture in particular has been dated to the 14th or 15th century, and there are other Ife heads hundreds of years older as well. The beaded headdress is likely a crown, suggesting that this head depicts an Oni, which is the title of a ruler of Ife. That said, considering that artworks of this time were located both near and far from the palace, it has been suggested that not all of these sculptures were used just by royalty, but by a variety of people for multiple purposes. It is important to note that for the Yoruba, the head, which they call the Ori, refers not simply to the literal head, but also to one's very soul. Continuing our quest, we arrive in the Central African country of Gabon, where we behold the Great Bairi head, which is the work of the Betsi people, who themselves are part of the Southern Fang culture. This magnificently abstracted wooden construction was crafted in the 19th century, and is the largest known Fang head, at 18.5 inches tall. Sculptures like this were made to represent the ancestors and were attached to the top of a container which held important relics. The Great Bairy in particular was a part of a portable family altar which contained the relics of 9 generations or more. Great care was given to the wood. Its shining black surface was the result of regular anointments of palm oil and copal resin. The Bairy were consulted before any important activities commenced. The ancestors would help their descendants in their times of need. Our travels now bring us to South Africa, in the town of Lydenburg. Here we find a terracotta sculpture that was buried around 500 AD. This Lydenburg head, as well as the other earthenware artworks found with it, are considered the oldest African Iron Age sculptures below the equator that we have discovered so far. One of the intriguing details of this head is the rings which form the neck. Among a number of African peoples, rings of fat on the neck is seen as a sign of prosperity. That said, one cannot determine with certainty that the rings of the Lydenburg heads were meant to portray this value, since little information is known about the ancient peoples who created them. The animal atop this sculpture's head is also difficult to identify. It is speculated that the heads were used in initiation rites and may have even been worn as a mask. Unfortunately, this is just scholarly conjecture, and the exact use of these ancient Lydenburg heads remain a mystery. What can be said for sure is that they must have been highly respected objects, based on the fact that they were buried with care. Setting sail to Madagascar, we encounter an amulet known as OD. It is composed of wood, beads, hair, and earth, and dates to the 20th century. These types of amulets and talismans are forms of protection and good luck to peoples all throughout Madagascar. This example we have here comes from the Merina peoples. The piercing blue bead eyes denotes a vigilant gaze, and its parted lips indicates that it is alert and prepared to speak. But more important than the facial features, or any external design for that matter, are the substances held within. The top of the head is open and contains various elements of supernatural efficacy. With the aid of a diviner or healer, an assortment of materials are added to the amulet. Examples include earth, bones, sticks, and seeds. The exact type and amount of materials is tailored to the needs of the owner. Once ready, the magical charm would be worn by a cord around the neck or waist, protecting the wearer from harm. Africa is not just a continent, but a people as well. So for the final part of our adventure, we travel to Jamaica to look at the art of the Diaspora. This sculpture was made in 1958 and simply titled Head. It is the work of the Jamaican artist David Miller Jr., who lived from 1903 to 1977. He worked in Kingston, where he carved a number of objects. The head from 1958 is a powerful and sensitive sculpture. It has an elongated style and bears a subtle smile. Its naturalism and smoothness are said to recall the heads of Ife, or even the heads of Benin. It is an artwork which is both modern and at the same time gives respect to Africa's past. Thank you for joining us on our journey through time. But the adventure doesn't end here. What will the future faces of African art be?